So, this is super exciting. Thank God it's happening! Yes, Daniel Tetangga Kamu live on stage untuk pertama kalinya akan diadakan. Dan sekarang gue mau kasih informasi lebih detailnya. Karena kita akan mengundang Mbak Najwa Shihab di acara pertama kita ini. Di hari Kamis, tanggal 18 Mei di TC Space. Alamatnya di Citibank Tower, Pondok Indah, lantai 8. Alright guys, this is super duper exciting for me. Nah, kalau misalnya kalian ngerasa ini kayaknya ada deh satu orang yang bakal kena banget dari obrolannya Daniel sama Mbak Nana. Well, jangan lupa untuk undang semua lingkungan kalian karena ini mudah-mudahan bisa life changing untuk mereka juga. Guys, kalau misalnya kalian tertarik dan pengen daftar, langsung aja scan QR code yang ada di sini atau bisa klik link yang ada di caption di bawah ini. Thank you so much guys. I really wanna see you guys dan kenalan sama kalian face to face langsung di acara Daniel Tetangga Kamu live on stage. But anyway, untuk itu please enjoy this episode of Daniel Tetangga Kamu. Check it out. You're an Arab.
Yes.
But then you have Simon as a name.
And when I was 16, my cousin invited me to the United States, to California. And when I arrived, he told me, get ready, we're going for a 1-week trip to Yosemite Park, to the national park in Yosemite. But at that moment, I knew that something special has started in my life, a relationship with Jesus Christ.
Hai, ini gua Daniel Tetangga Kamu. Di sini gua akan ngobrol dengan tetangga gua tentang perjalanan hidup mereka dari kacamata spiritual di saat mereka mengalami situasi tidak pasti dan kekhawatiran, sampai bisa kembali bangkit menjadi orang yang lebih kuat dari sebelumnya. It's gonna be very exclusive and inspiring. Di Daniel Tetangga Kamu Israel Edition kali ini, gua ngajak teman baru gua untuk ngobrol sambil jalan-jalan di Yerusalem. Dia adalah Simon.
I'm Simon, I'm 45. I'm married with 3 children. My wife is German.
Sebagai seorang Arab, Simon mempunyai perjalanan spiritual sendiri sampai akhirnya dia memilih untuk menjadi pengikut Yesus Kristus. You're an Arab.
Yes.
But then you have Simon as a name.
Yes.
Is that given by your parents or?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Tell me like, how come you have a Christian name? Simon is a Christian name, no?
Yes, well, in Israel there are about 9 million people. 7 million are Jews and 2 million are Arab Muslims.
Okay.
But there are also 100,000 Christians, nominal Christians. 100,000, mostly they are Catholics and Orthodox Christians that speak Arabic.
Okay.
Yes. So from this 100,000, there's also few that are Protestants in Israel, and my parents are Protestants, but they are nominal Christians. So as in America, they say CE Christians, Christmas, Easter only. 2 times a year they go to church and
CEOs, yeah.
CE. Yeah. So my father, even 1 time a year was enough for him. So I grew up in a nominal Christian family where I heard about Christ, but did not have a relationship with Christ.
Okay.
And when I was 16, my cousin invited me to the United States, to California. And when I arrived, he told me, get ready, we're going for a 1-week trip to Yosemite Park, to the national park in Yosemite.
Yep.
And he was a leader in a youth group, and it was a believing church. So when we went to travel in Yosemite for 1 week, every night they would make a bonfire, and they would eat and sing together, and one of the young people, he would give his testimony. And one of the things that I remember sitting there in California is that this person that gave his testimony, he said, I know Christ and Christ knows me. And I was listening to him and something hit me. Next day, it was a girl that gave her testimony, a young girl. She gave a total different story, how she came to Christ, but she said in her sentence, I know Christ and Christ knows me. And after 6 days of hearing this, I felt that God was bringing the truth towards my face, and there was a wall behind me, and I could not run away from the truth, escape. And I knew information about Christ, like I know information about Queen Elizabeth II, but I have never met Queen Elizabeth II. So how come somebody says, I know Christ? That means he has an intimate relationship with him. And then the 6th day and the 6th time that somebody said that sentence, I could not hear it anymore. And it was dark in the night, and I remember this day, I ran from this group towards the forest. It was dark and I was searching for my tent. Thank God I found it. I went inside, I closed it, I went on my knees and I prayed, Father in heaven, I do not know you because I do not know your Son, Jesus Christ. Come to my heart and be my Savior. And at that moment, I did not fly or felt hot, cold. I don't know how other people experience it, but at that moment, I knew that something special has started in my life, a relationship with Jesus Christ. And when I was 16, coming back to Israel, I was in a Jewish high school that we studied technology, and I had friends, and I had my music team and my football team, and things started being very difficult for me because I used to walk 3 kilometers to school, and after 1.5 kilometers, I would say, let's forget about Christ now. I want to be with my music team, with my football team.
Right.
I want to be with them, with my friends. Then I would go back, go to my room, close the door, and start crying because there was this struggle in my heart. What do I do with Christ in my heart? And it was 2 years that were really, really difficult because I felt that something had started in me, but I'm blocking it all the time. And I continued playing soccer, football. And one day, beside our football field, there's a basketball court, and 3 Norwegian volunteers that volunteer in an old people's home for Holocaust survivors came to play basketball. So immediately we Israelis, we voted, we changed our professions to basketball to play with the beautiful Norwegian girls, even though the intentions were not good. But one girl was very unique because I asked her, is Norway beautiful? And she said, I'll tell you something about somebody more beautiful than Norway, and that's Jesus Christ. And every question I asked her, her answer was Jesus Christ. And in the end, she said to me, do you want to hear more about Jesus? You are invited to a youth group in a Messianic congregation. There was a youth group of some volunteers from Europe. They met there in English. She told me, come and I'll wait for you at 7:30 in a German colony. So as a good Israeli, I came late and she was faithfully waiting for me outside. And the youth group started already the worship. And when we came in with her, she opened the door and I heard the music, singing and people praising, and I knew that God has brought me to my spiritual home. And that was 27 years ago in the Messianic congregation, Betheliaho, yes, in the German colony. So when I went inside, I met volunteers from Europe that praised God, but I did not meet the congregation itself. That was Saturday, next day at 10 o'clock. So when I came next day, Saturday, to my surprise, there were 60 Jewish people in that congregation. They were all above 70 years old, and they were all Holocaust survivors. So I was thinking to myself, what is God doing exactly? You know, bringing a 17, 18-year-old non-Jewish person to a Messianic congregation with Holocaust survivors, 70 years old. They speak Yiddish and German and Romanian. What is God's plan? Like, what am I? It was a shock for me, little bit. And immediately, after a few weeks, the pastor came to me and he said to me, Simon, you're not young, you have energy. Can you wake up in the morning on Saturday, early morning, take our old Volkswagen bus and go and bring 8 Holocaust survivors from the Carmel? Wow. And I said, well, you know, we have one weekend in Israel. One day you can rest, maybe not. And he said, please help us. So I woke up at Saturday for 5 years. Wow. And I took the Holocaust survivors from the mountain, 8 of them. And I can say now, after 27 years, that God has blessed me so much in these 5 years with the Holocaust survivors in the car. Wow. They would ask me in the morning, Simon, how are you doing? I would say, oh, I have a terrible math exam in the university. My life is so difficult. And one Holocaust survivor woman, she told me, I was living 3 months in the forest of Czechoslovakia, running from Nazis, and I was eating leaves from the trees for 3 months. So don't tell me your life is difficult. So I close my mouth.
Let's go back to math.
Exactly. And really, these Holocaust survivors, they did not speak so much, and they did not tell so much what has happened in the Holocaust. But it was amazing that after few months and years, they trust you to open up and to tell you about what had happened and how God made a miracle through their lives. Yeah. And I asked them, how did you come to faith? And they told me that in 1920, it was a mission work from Norway, from Oslo, with a nurse that came to work with Jewish people that were orphaned in East Europe, in Romania. And God blessed that mission with the children. And then the pastor came from Norway, and through that mission started a Messianic congregation in 1920 in East Europe, in Bucharest, Romania. And for some years, it was the biggest Messianic congregation in Romania itself.
Wow.
But then in 1933, when the Nazis came to that area, they took all the Jewish people from that congregation to the concentration camp. And the pastor, as a Norwegian pastor, he was arrested by the Russian army, and they told him, you have to leave to Norway. And he left to Norway thinking that everything is gone, and he was praying to be devastated, thinking, God, what is with your vision that you have given the congregation? Exactly. And in 1947, in the time of war in Israel, 48, the church in Norway have sent that pastor to Israel, to Haifa, to the German colony. And that pastor was waking up every day and walking in Haifa and praying to God, asking him what to do. And one day this pastor was walking at the port of Haifa, and a ship came from Europe, and the first man that came out of the ship was a Holocaust survivor from Romania, from his congregation.
Come on.
And he said to him, that's a miracle that my pastor waits for me in Israel, in the Holy Land. And he said, that's a miracle that you survived the Holocaust. And they both met in 1950. They started a house group together, and they started Beit Eliyahu Messianic congregation in Haifa. Later, more Holocaust survivors came to Beit Eliyahu, and the congregation building was built in 1977. And the pastor himself, he raised enough money in Norway and in the Scandinavian countries to build also an old people's home called Ebenezer Old People's Home for the Holocaust survivors. Until today, it's the only Messianic believing old people's home in Israel. And when I was in the car with them, in that time, I volunteered in the old people's home beside our church. And I met my wife. She's a German. She came from Germany to volunteer in the old people's home for 6 months, and I met her there. And then she left Israel to go and study in Germany. She broke my heart. And I was planning in Christmas to go and visit her and her family. Yes. Right. So one of the Holocaust survivors, he came to me and he said, Shlomo Drori, his name. He came to me and he said, I heard you have a girlfriend and you are going to Germany. Can you buy me something in Germany? I said, yes, why not? So he took a piece of paper, and I don't know if you know, but German words can be really long. So he was like writing on this, and he took the paper, he gave it to me. So I flew to Germany. I went to my future mother-in-law, and I told her, can you buy me this? And she said, yeah, sure, what is it? And she opened it and she says, what? I said, what is it? And she said, Ochsenschwanzsuppe. It's the oxtails soup in a can. She said, who wants that? I said, an elder from our congregation, is that okay? She said, yeah, I'll buy it for you. So I would buy it to him. And Shlomo became old, and he went to the old people's home. So I would bring him in the morning with a wheelchair to Beit Eliyahu, to the congregation. And I asked him one time, Shlomo, can you explain to me, why do you eat this Ochsenschwanzsuppe, this soup, special soup, when I don't know anybody that eats this thing? And he said to me, listen to me, Simon, when I was 12 years old, as a Jew in Berlin, nobody wanted to play with me. And he had some handicap thing in his leg. And as a handicapped child, nobody wanted to play with me. And after 1933 and the Nazis, really nobody wanted to play with me. So I was a lot of time with my mother, and I was in the kitchen helping her, and she was cooking me this Ochsenschwanzsuppe. So when you buy it and my wife cooks it, I have these memories from Berlin, from my time with my mother. So I told them, okay, Shlomo, I will not ask more questions. I will always buy it for you.
That's so precious. That's so precious.
Yeah. In the middle of a football court, teaching them how to play football. So before we started, I make like a little bit stretching my muscles, and they said, what are you doing? What are you doing? It's difficult. I said, yeah, the whole day you make like this, but it's difficult for you to make like this. He was 1.9 meters, very strong, only 16, 17 years old. He says to me, you know, you have been asking us what we believe. What do you believe? He said. And I said, okay, God, so thank you. You opened the door, not me.